A thick fog blankets the streets of Victorian London. The dim glow of gas lamps barely pierces the darkness, casting flickering shadows against the damp cobblestones. The faint wail of an infant echoes down an alleyway. A woman, shrouded in a heavy cloak, clutches a small bundle close to her chest as she hesitates outside a decrepit house. The door creaks open, and an eerie voice beckons her inside. The woman's breath trembles in the cold night air as she steps across the threshold. The scent of damp wood and something cloyingly sweet, lavender water perhaps, masks an underlying stench of decay. Before her stands Amelia Dyer, her round face framed by wisps of graying hair, her expression warm yet unreadable. "You've done the right thing, dearie," Amelia croons, her hands outstretched. "This little angel will be well cared for." The mother hesitates, looking down at her child. The baby's tiny fingers curl instinctively around her own, a silent plea, a moment of doubt. But desperation is a cruel master. She presses a few crumpled notes into Amelia's palm, kisses the baby's forehead, and turns away, tears streaking her cheeks. As the door swings shut, the crying ceases. The night swallows the sound. The child is never seen again. Victorian England was a place of stark contrasts, wealth and squalor, progress and suffering. The Industrial Revolution had drawn thousands into the choking heart of London, where unwed mothers faced scorn and destitution. With no social safety net, many turned to baby farmers, women who, for a fee, promised to care for unwanted infants or find them adoptive families. But behind closed doors, many of these children were simply left to waste away. The conditions were horrifying, says Dr. Margaret Whitmore, a historian specializing in 19th century social welfare. Infants were often neglected, starved, or overdosed on opium-laced syrups to keep them silent. Their deaths were rarely questioned. The system failed them. Few were as monstrous as Amelia Dyer. Born in 1837 in Pile Marsh near Bristol, Amelia Dyer's early life was unremarkable. The daughter of a shoemaker, she grew up in a strict household dominated by religion and discipline. But behind the facade of normalcy lay a hidden horror. Her mother, afflicted by severe mental illness, suffered violent outbursts and fits of rage. Dr. Henry Lawson, a forensic psychologist, offers insight. Children who witness extreme instability often develop emotional detachment as a survival mechanism. For some, this manifests as a lack of empathy, an inability to see others as human. Amelia became a nurse, learning to tend to the sick, administer medicine, and most crucially, win trust. But nursing was grueling work, and she saw an easier path to wealth. She entered the baby farming business, collecting fees from desperate women who could not keep their children. At first, she cared for them, but the costs outweighed the profits, so she stopped caring. Infant mortality was heartbreakingly common in Victorian London. Disease, malnutrition, and neglect claimed countless young lives. This grim reality provided Amelia Dyer with the perfect cover. "No one batted an eye when an infant died," says Dr. Whitmore. In the poorest areas, it was expected. Dyer exploited this to an unimaginable degree. Initially, she relied on laudanum, a widely available opium tincture, to sedate the babies. A few drops kept them quiet. A larger dose silenced them forever. But waiting for starvation or drugs to take effect was inefficient. She needed something quicker. She began using white tape. "I used to like to watch them with the tape around their necks," Amelia would later confess. "That's how you could tell it was one of mine." With practiced efficiency, she wrapped the tape around the infant's throat and pulled tight. The struggling never lasted long. Disposing of the bodies was a growing challenge. At first, she buried them in shallow graves or concealed them beneath floorboards. But as the number of victims increased, so did the risk of discovery. Eventually, she began wrapping them in cloth, tying them with string, and dumping them into the River Thames. For years, Amelia Dyer evaded justice. When suspicion arose, she feigned insanity, committed herself to asylums, then re-emerged under new aliases in different cities. Each time, she resumed her dark work. But in 1896, her luck ran out. It started with a single bundle. A passerby spotted a suspicious package floating in the Thames. Inside was the decomposed body of an infant girl, wrapped in brown paper. But Amelia had grown careless. On the wrapping, police found a crucial clue, an address. Authorities raided her home. What they found was the stuff of nightmares: baby clothes, adoption records, letters from frantic mothers pleading for news of their children, and a smell, stale, suffocating, unmistakable. They arrested her on the spot. The evidence against Amelia Dyer was overwhelming. The public was outraged. Hundreds of grieving families suspected she had taken their children. The courts, however, required only one conviction. After a trial that lasted just a few minutes, she was sentenced to death. On June 10, 1896, Amelia Dyer was led to the gallows at Newgate Prison. The crowd gathered, eager for justice, but she had nothing to say. The woman who had murdered an estimated 300 infants was gone. Amelia Dyer's reign of terror forced Britain to confront the horrors of baby farming. Laws changed, regulations tightened. No longer could women so easily buy and sell the lives of infants. Dyer's case was a catalyst for reform, Dr. Whitmore explains. It exposed the darkest side of Victorian society and forced real change in child welfare laws. Yet, the horror remains. The River Thames has long since washed away the evidence, but the echoes of her crimes still linger. How many cries went unanswered? How many souls remain unaccounted for? And how many more atrocities have been swallowed by history, waiting to be uncovered? If this story chilled you to the bone, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We have more untold horrors waiting in the shadows. Until next time, stay safe and beware the past. It never truly stays buried.